tens of millions of people live on both sides of Gurnee, and what we can do with the convention center is incredible. It would put us on the map, and we would drive Gurnee so much farther. Can this be done? Other places are doing it. You look at Zion building a ballpark in the middle of a field right next door to a sewage plant. How much sense does that make? But they're going forward with that. Gurnee has an opportunity to maybe do a convention center where our high school children can do their proms at, instead of taking them to Schaumburg and other areas and bringing that revenue there. We need to look at the full scope of things here, and we can only do that when we invite every single person in the community to throw their ideas into this plan. A convention center on Grand Avenue, possibly at the Holiday Inn, would work wonders for us.
Ma'am.
Morning. With the economy the way it is right now, I'm just curious what went into the decision to give the village employees increases when everyone's getting laid off or having their wages frozen.
All right. And some of that's executive session, but Greg and I will help you with it. Out of the 220 employees, 70% of them are under union contracts. The contracts run for 3 years. We did negotiate one this year. Greg and I both want to hold the line as much as possible on the union contracts. We were just a few hours from arbitration before we came to a compromise. So those increases we have to give. That leaves, what's the number, 60 employees that are non-union. Half of those have topped out on their salaries. The other half are subject to merit increases. And that is a range. The board had put the board had put in like a bell curve, and if you score so high on your performance, this is the range of increase you can get. We did agree to a cost of living increase so that we have some parity with what the union contracts are. We don't want to take all of the savings off the back of the non-union employees. The board discussed it in executive session, and we will be voting on it soon, and then we will meet with the employees. But it's not a 5% increase. The only 5% increases are ones that were negotiated by the union with attorneys and all that kind of stuff. Our non-union employees are not getting that kind of increase.
I didn't say 5%. I just said
Well,
yeah, there's a range, and he can maybe help. It goes from like 2% up to like 5.5%, and if you score like exceptional, you can get from 4 to 5.5. But it's a very small pool of employees. The majority of our employees, we have 4 unions, and that is the lion's share of our employees, and those are done by contract. It's months of negotiations. We know what we can afford. They know what they want, and we came pretty close to arbitration on this last contract. And it's tough when you're dealing with the unions. And once you make an agreement, you're kind of stuck. We are trying to get some concessions on some things other than wages right now. But what happens, a lot of these communities are laying off, it's because of their union contracts. And either you cut wages and salary, or you cut people, and then when you're in a union situation, you can't cut the salaries and the wages, and you can't cut the benefits until the contract comes up for negotiation. So you really have no choice. But our non-union employees understand the situation. The cost of living is much smaller than what the union people are getting, and we have a lot of people that are topped out, and they won't be getting anything other than the cost of living. So we've tightened what we can without making them, bear all the pain of what's going on financially. But again, it hasn't been voted on yet.
As mayor, I would like to think that I can't see a union holding the village hostage. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You make agreements and contracts, and all of a sudden we present it in the budget hearings, and then we vote on it. Why vote on it if it's already pretty much said and done? It's almost a redundancy that we say one thing by we're watching the budget, we're watching our purse strings, but at the same time, well, we can't do nothing about that because we already have approved that years ago with the unions. Times are tough right now, and everywhere you look, unions or not unions, we're all in this ball game together. We're American. It doesn't matter if we're union or non-union. when they come up to negotiate a contract, we give them what we agree on. But at that particular time, if times were bad, I think those agreements and those contracts would be drafted a little bit differently. So when you see other communities, for example, Naperville, where 50 employees opted out on a volunteer basis to not take a paid vacation this year, they're union employees. I think the unions would understand the situation that everybody's in right now. Some concessions could have at least been attempted. And this leadership just seems to say, well, you know, it's a contract and our hands are tied and there's nothing we can do about it. I think the people of Gurnee demand a little bit more from whoever is running the government of our town. We need to look for a helping hand. And I'm sure that our village employees would be all too understanding that when times are good, we reward them. Nobody's saying that they don't deserve a raise. They're wonderful people. You know, let's just be happy we have a job right now. Let's get our house in order, and we'll look at the future if it presents itself differently. But right now, the leadership should have sought and at least discussed what concessions could have been given by the employees. It just makes sense.
I think municipal employees are not only paid well, but they also receive excellent increases in good times and in bad times. We're in a bad time; they're going to get a decent increase. You know, I just think it's way out of line. I think when the average employee is probably getting no increase to maybe 1%. And then you go, and then your municipal employees are getting anywhere between, 3 and 5%, 6%. I just think, so, my pet peeve is we go into these meetings and we, I get 1% and then I approve 5%. How's that? I just think we're out of touch. It's out of line But now keep in mind, in all fairness, there are issues with with unions, and I don't think unions are going to be willing to negotiate down. And it's just not the village of Gurnee. It's all municipal employees in this country. Somehow it got out of whack. Nobody seems to know how. No one wants to really once again take responsibility for it. But at the same time, I think, as leaders in the community, we need to stand up we represent the residents, first and foremost. So when I go in these meetings and these requests for big dollars come across the desk, I'm jumping up and down saying, hey, no way. Now, many times because, I don't make the final decision, I'm only one of 6 votes. We can't swing it the other, in my favor or in favor of the residents. That's just how it is. But I think definitely something needs to be done about this because, again, the tax burden is currently on the backs of the residents when the focus ought to be let's build the town so that the revenues come in to take care of the town so so the average resident can keep more of his money to spend in his town to make more money for the town. I think that should be the focus, and currently that's not the focus. The focus seems to be tax and spend, at the expense of the resident. So, our leadership is currently not focused on the needs or representing the people that actually put them in office. So I think, something definitely needs to be done about it. I think it's irresponsible government once again. And I think that until we do something about it, we'll have what we have. None of us as candidates can place ourselves in office. The people must make the change, and people must be informed and aware of what's going on so that they can make the right choice. When they place their ballot. But so I invite them to take a look, decide for themselves, and make the changes that are necessary to propel this village forward.
I'm sorry,